Oh, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. This is the Mr. Hornsby 3 show. And today I'm finally going to get around to this video where I'm going to talk about what AEW needs to do that WCW used to do. I was going to come up with some other wrestling figure topics I'm going to talk about. I'll talk about how bad Raw was last week, and apparently it was bad this past Monday as well, so I don't know. Talk about a new WWE champion, Drew McIntyre. And then I'll talk a little bit about some bigger stuff. And some early Comic-Con prediction stuff. Or stuff we might see at WrestleMania or hear by WrestleMania. But yeah, anyway. So first off, let's get into AEW, which is on tonight. Which I think is going to be a better show than last week. Because last week's show was, it was an okay show. It wasn't great, but you know what? Tonight's going to be really good. And I'm going to be watching that. But, there are some things that I think AEW should do that WCW used to do. Because, you know, get this stop moving. First thing I think they should do is start doing venues like WCW used to do. Like, you know, when they would go to spring break. Now, I know the spring break stuff don't exist no more because I think MTV did away with it. Like, go to spring break stuff. I also think one thing I'd like to see AEW do is I'd like to see them show an episode of Dynamite from the Mall of America. Because, you know, the reason why I say AEW should do this stuff is because the aesthetic would be pretty good and people are going to be interested in watching something like that. Like, imagine a freaking Dynamite episode culminating from a freaking, from the Mall of America. Or a AEW Dynamite episode culminating from a beach at the, from an island at something like a spring break or something like that. One thing I don't think they should do, though, I do not think they should freaking do another Sturgis style show ever. They'll never do. The Sturgis Road Wild shows were always the worst shows, even in WCW's prime. And, you know, the only significant Hog Wild show, aka Road Wild, was the first one because that's where Hulk Hogan won the WCW Championship after revealing he was the third guy for the NWO and him hauling ass spray painting the NWO logo on the big gold WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Now, another thing, you know, like, I like to see, you know, also like AEW do like some shows like Club Vila or something like that. I mean, if you watch one of the first few episodes of Dynamite, let's not forget they were on the Jericho Cruise on an episode of Dynamite one time. Let's not forget that. So I think the aesthetic of being in different places, like something like the Mall of America or Villa Beach or whatever freaking other stuff they do, I think that's something AEW should really look into because people might tune in just for the aesthetic of it all. Because, you know, yeah, is it important to have a good storyline? Yes. Is it important to have good wrestling? Yes. Is it important to have title belts? Yes. You know, but, you know, I think too many people these days do not focus on the aesthetic portion of wrestling anymore. They're just like, oh, it's got to have a good storyline. Or it's got to have, you know, an angle that hooks you or whatever. You know, that's all fine and dandy, but also the aesthetic. And you know what? The other companies aren't doing this either. Like, we don't see WWE go into a frickin' spring break show or anything like that. We don't see, you know, TNA going to Sturgis for a freaking road or going to the Mall of America or anything like that. You know, the thing is, I think too many people focus on the bad stuff WCW does. Currently to this day, I hear more people talk about all the bad stuff WCW did over the years than they talk about the good stuff WCW did over the years. They don't talk that much about the good stuff. Whether it's Cultaholic, whether it's frickin' WrestleMania, whether it's frickin' Wrestling with Regret, whether it's frickin' any other frickin' YouTube channel that talks about wrestling. They don't talk about the good stuff enough that WCW did. Like, come on now, how frickin' crazy was it to see the first Nitro come from the Mall of America in 1995? That's very interesting. And, you know, how amazing would it be to see an AEW Dynamite from the Mall of America? Now, yeah, I know they run the big stadium shows and all that crap like WWE does for pay-per-views, and so does AEW, and so does TNA. But come on, give us something a little different. And all these same old, especially with AEW, since, you know, they go to a lot of the places where they know they can pack the house now. But let's see. Better aesthetics for frickin' these wrestling shows. Like, imagine AEW just, you know, having their show from All of America, or doing a Sturgis show, or frickin' doing, you know, and that's something that WCW, yeah, some of the stuff they didn't work out, like the Sturgis shows were always bad, but, you know, come on now, you could do more stuff like that. And I know Tony Khan says, well, I don't want to do all the bad things WCW did. I want to do more of the good things WCW did, but you ain't done nothing yet that was a good thing that WCW did yet. You've done a lot of the bad things that WCW have done over the years, like with bad booking, bad storylines, and that stuff. But you kind of course corrected this year and toward the end of last year. But, you know, seeing a Dynamite show at the Mall of America, or frickin' at a spring break like show, or at Club Vila, or wherever you want to frickin' have it, that would be, or you know what, another place, Disney Studio, or frickin' Universal Studio. I mean, AEW is based in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida is not that far from Orlando, Florida, where Disney World is. Do more shows like that from places like that. I mean, in the Mall of America, they got like this entertainment spot right there. I seen it when I went to the Mall of America a couple years ago with my family. Well, a year and a half ago with my family. Give us more stuff like that. I mean, give us something from Disney Studios, and, you know, something for frickin', you know, Mall of America or Universal Studio or something like that. Do something fun instead of doing these same old venues. It's like, yeah, it's cool. Sometimes it's cool, but then sometimes it's like, oh god, this is lame. Yeah. But come on now, give us more stuff like that. I mean, you know, and like I said, since WCW's been dead, no company's done nothing like that. WWE hasn't done it. TNA didn't do it. New Japan don't do it. You know, all these other shows don't do it. All these other wrestling shows out there. Ring of Honor didn't do it. You know, WCW was the only one that went to unique spots. And that's something I think AEW should do. Go to unique spots for your Dynamite shows and that. And I guarantee you that will bring some people in, but you still got to have a reason to bring them back in. And yeah, that could work so much, like going to places like that. But you also got to have good storytelling, good booking, and all that stuff too. But yeah, man, I mean, I think it would be such an easy thing to do. Tony Khan said, you know what? let's do a show at the Mall of America when we're in Minnesota again. Or let's do a show at like somewhere like, Disney World. Or let's do a show at somewhere like Sturgis, which would be a bad idea, but hey, you know what I'm saying. And that's one of the things that made WCW also different from WWE. It wasn't just the fact that they were presenting reality storylines and that at the time when WWE was doing cartoonish stuff. Well, WWF at the time. When they were doing all this cartoonish crap and that. But, you need to give us something that's pleasing to see and, pleasing to the eyes to see. Like, WCW did a Bash on the Beach show. It might not have been a good show. They did a Bash at the Beach show on a beach! That's stuff AEW should think about doing. Yeah, the show might have been bad, but, come on now. Who would frickin' put a wrestling show on a beach? That would be pretty cool to see a frickin' wrestling show on a beach. People say, well, that's more... Look, it worked for WCW for a lot of years. It could work for AEW and that. People already say they got this indie mindset and all that crap anyway. Like Jim Cornette and that say it's an indie mindset at AEW and all that. Yeah, somewhat is. I feel like it is. And that's something Tony Khan needs to work on. Which, I'm going to talk about that now. Yeah, you need to work on not having your company feel like an indie program all the freaking time. Because you're the second biggest wrestling company in America, probably the second biggest company in the world right now. Because what? AAA is now owned by WWE. CMLL has a partnership with AEW. New Japan has a partnership with AEW, but are any one of those companies as good as they used to be back in the day? I don't think so. But, that's something Tony Khan needs to work on. He gets in this indie wrestling mindset. And see, that's the thing. Everybody freaking criticizes him for trying to appease Dave Meltzer, which I could care less what Dave Meltzer thinks about any freaking kind of wrestling. Dave Meltzer is a freaking moron. I agree with Eric Bischoff on that. Dave Meltzer is a freaking moron. I don't watch none of his freaking reports or any of that crap. But that's the one thing I do agree with Eric Bischoff on is Dave Meltzer is a moron. He is dumb. And he's one of the biggest problems with modern day wrestling. Because, he's so biased toward AEW. And yeah, AEW wrestles the style he likes, but he's so biased toward them, it's just crazy. I hate freaking people being biased. Why are you biased toward one company? It's not a bad thing to critique a company you want to succeed. Not be one of these trolls that want AEW to fail at everything, because a lot of these idiots on the internet and all that, especially in the wrestling internet community, all want AEW to fail. Just like they wanted WCW to fail. Just like they wanted TNA to fail. How many years have we heard TNA dead or gonna die? We've heard it for quite a lot of years since 2002. And it's because these frickin' people, especially the internet wrestling community, are so frickin' closed-minded, so stupid, so dumb. They act like they're so smart, but they're really not. They're so stupid, so dumb, so biased toward WWE. It's just, I don't know. And then they say, oh, we only criticize them because we want them to do better. No, you don't. You want them to fail. Do you come out and talk about a video on things that AEW should do that frickin' WWE or TNA doesn't do? No. You just go on and blast them for their booking. And yes, Tony Khan has had some bad booking over the years. Look at what's happened to my boy Wardlow. Come on now. And then you go on these frickin' rants about how great WWE is now and that. That's why I frickin' stopped watching WrestleMania and frickin' what was the other one I was watching? Wrestle Talk, because they got, especially when CM Punk left AEW, went to WWE. You know, people just got, especially Wrestle Talk, got so biased toward WWE because now CM Punk's at WWE. And they hate AEW. And something else that really irritates me is how people's like, oh, they mishandled CM Punk. They did not mishandle the guy. The guy caused drama in that company. Tony Khan pushed that guy to the moon when he came into the company. He gave him everything he wanted. He sat there and let him go on a rant after a big pay-per-view where he just won AEW's World Championship. And didn't do nothing to him then. Yeah, could he handle the situation could he handle the heat between the Bucks and freaking Punk? Yeah. He could have did that better. But, instead of doing nothing and expecting things to get better when they weren't. Excuse me. But everybody's like, oh, they mishandled CM, but they did not mishandle him. He was treated good there. He won the title twice. He was one of the few people that won the AEW Championship twice in the company at that time. Before all this nonsense happened with Brawl Out and all that. So I don't know why the hell these frickin' internet wrestling goofballs come on here and say, well, they mishandled CM Punk. No, they didn't. He was booked well. He frickin' was the champion twice in the company. They gave him his own show, so he wouldn't have to deal with the Young Bucks. But yeah. Yes, did they mishandle the situation badly? Yes, but they did not mishandle CM Punk badly. They mishandled the situation badly. Not Punk. The situation. They mishandled it badly. And that's on Tony Khan. He should have had better leadership, and he should have frickin' done something when that first broke out. Instead of doing nothing and expecting things to get better, he should have forced the Young Bucks, if they were the ones that were frickin' starting this crap and saying that, it's his fault that Colt Cabana got moved to Ring of Honor or something like that, then yeah. Tony Khan should have forced him to apologize, forced them to make up with frickin' CM Punk, and that would have been a different story. And CM Punk probably wouldn't be in WWE right now. But it's not CM Punk they mishandled. It was the situation, not CM Punk. It was the situation was mishandled, not the person. And that irritates me when these idiots come on here and say that, oh, they mishandled Punk. No, they handled him fine. It was the situation between him and the Bucks, or the Elite, or whatever, that was mishandled. Not the frickin' person. But these frickin' morons will go on here on frickin' YouTube and say all this BS bullshit nonsense that's so stupid. They sound like a bunch of fucking idiots who don't know anything about wrestling. And people like that annoy me. Seriously, dude. That's why I don't claim, because I could have been a, complete wrestling channel when I first started YouTube, because I've, been a wrestling fan since I was very, very young. I've seen a lot of things. I know a lot of things about the world of wrestling and that. But, I'm like, no, because then I'll be coped in with the internet wrestling community, and fuck that. I don't want to be coped in with those frickin' brainless morons or those frickin' stupid trolls that don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they act like they do, and that are stupid, and when they actually think they're smart, when they're not smart, they're actually stupid. Yeah. Yeah, they're frickin' stupid morons. There's a few people that are not, well, I'm not gonna say they're IWC. People like Solid Monster and that, are they? I don't know, but yeah. Because these are also the same fucking morons that hated WCW no matter what they did. These are the same fucking morons that hated TNA no matter what they did. So yeah, I don't want to be frickin' anywhere near being associated with any of the wrestling internet community. That's why I didn't make my channel a pure wrestling channel. Because there's other things I like to talk about, like, cartoons, action figures, movies, TV shows, video games and all that stuff. Because when I first started, I was trying to make my channel like G4, but heck, how moronic the people that were running G4 are, I don't know if I want to be like G4 anymore. And then, I don't know. I'm not saying no names, Adam Sessler. No. But anyway, yeah, I mean, those were things that AEW should do. Let me get back on track. There were things AEW should do to, maybe possibly help in the ratings. Yeah, you still gotta have good booking. You still gotta have good storytelling. You still gotta have good action and all that. A storyline that could hook everybody to come in for the next week. But honestly, it doesn't hurt to have good aesthetics either. Like showing a show from freaking Mall of America or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But, yeah, like I said, people be like, oh, that's like that's any mindset stuff. Well then, was it any mindset when freaking Eric Bischoff did it with WCW? I don't know. Who knows? But anyway. Alright. Let's talk about last Monday's Raw. I didn't watch this past Monday's Raw. I'm like, golly, they burnt me from the Monday before. Last Monday's Raw was so boring, I about fell asleep. I mean, seriously. I'm like, God, it's so boring. It was nice to see Rhea Ripley and freaking Io Sky win the women's tag team titles. Everything else outside of that was boring. They had a confrontation between AJ Styles and Gunther, which got settled Monday night, and apparently it ended in a weird circumstance anyway, so I don't know. God, it was so boring. I'm like, well, this show's so boring. Hopefully they're going to pay it off with us seeing Braun Breaker win the freaking World Heavyweight Championship. Wrong. Boy, was I wrong. And what was the deal with the Stranger Thing tie-in? They're like, oh, Stranger Things all right. Now look, I didn't expect Jericho to show off at Raw last Monday. I didn't think he was going to show up till the Royal Rumble if he is coming back to WWE, which I'm pretty sure he is. I think it's pretty clear he is coming back to WWE. But I'm like, you know what? I think he's going to come back at the Royal Rumble. But, why'd they have the Stranger Thing tie-in, like, what, 4 or 5 days after the final episode showed or something like that? Like, what was it, almost a week since they had showed the last episodes of that show? And they're doing a Stranger Things tie-in. I don't know, it was just stupid. The show was just freaking boring. I mean, boy. Here's what I was doing to half the show. That's how boring last week's Raw is. That's why I didn't watch it this past week. I'm like, God, it's going to be even more boring. And apparently, my understanding is it's not doing too well on Netflix anyway. Which I said, I think it was last year. Because we knew about the Netflix news for quite a while. That was going to Netflix. I said, you know what? I don't think Raw's going to do as well on Netflix as people think it's going to do. No matter if the show's improved or not. Because look what happened with TNN. When they switched from USA to TNN. WWE's ratings were not great. And honestly, from that time, what was it, September 2000, all the way up till 2001, WWF was not as interesting as it had been up until that point. And then they switched to a new channel, which kind of ruined things. I mean, and heck, Raw was what? The B show during the early freaking draft? During the early freaking brand extension and all that stuff? So, yeah, I mean, really, yeah, everybody says 2000 was the best year for WWF, which it was. But it just, you had stuff like, oh, the Rikishi's the one that ran over Stone Cold storyline when you were clearly sure it was going to be Triple H. Because Stone Cold was in the title match that night. But yeah, I said early last year in my 2025 prediction, I'm like, you know what? I don't think Raw's going to do as well on Netflix as it did while it was still on USA. And now they're learning that it's not doing as well. And Triple H is not doing as good as a booker this year as he was the first couple years. And then like last year, his booking wasn't that great either. I mean, with the whole Cena run debacle, you know, the freaking WrestleMania main event sucked. Like, oh man, yeah. It was just terrible, you know, last year. Hey, you know what? I know it's hard to, and you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Triple H, he's going to do so well because of NXT and all that. Yeah. Well, he did all right for the first couple years, but this last year, and then this year so far has not been great. So, yeah. They've only done 4 shows so far. SmackDown, I heard, was really good, and we had Drew McIntyre win the WWE Championship, which is about freaking time. Drew McIntyre deserved a proper WWE title run, because his first run wasn't that great. His second run wasn't that great. Not only that, you know, and then when he won the World Heavyweight title, what was it, last year's WrestleMania? And then he got beat up and freaking, you know, Damian Priest cashed in and took the World Heavyweight title from him. So yeah, I mean, finally, Drew McIntyre's going to get the proper WWE Championship run that he didn't get in his first couple runs. I highly doubt it, but you never know. It could happen. Maybe he'll get the main event in WrestleMania against Obo Femi. Who knows? Let's see. Hey, yeah, what? I'm not going to just bash WWE because, you know, AEW show last week was not that great or interesting. You know, it wasn't that great or interesting. Tonight, I think it's going to be a lot better because, you know, it's a big show night. You know, you got frickin' TNA airing on AMC starting tomorrow. So I think they're going to put all they're going to put all their effort in trying to be better than TNA. Even though they're on different days, because like TNA's on Thursday, they're on Wednesday. They're going to be trying to improve because they know not only do you have to deal with WWE, but TNA could surpass you as the second best company in the world or America if you all freaking fall flat on your faces these next several months. Or these next several years. I don't know how long freaking TNA is going to be on AMC. But, you know, now that TNA is now on an actual network. Although I heard TNA ain't been that great lately either, so. And a couple years ago, they were having a resurgence and they were starting to look like the old TNA. But, I don't know. I heard so far they're not that great either, so. That's a good thing for AEW, but still. It's time to start improving your show. Start improving your show. Get those ratings back up. Get your freaking, get your audience back. Get them back coming to your arenas and that. And all that stuff. Because, you know, you got a possibility that your freaking show may not be on the air after a couple years because there's still stuff up in the air about who's going to freaking own Warner Brothers. You know, Netflix won the bid, but now Paramount is sued and all that stuff, and I don't want to get into all that because I'm not into stuff like that. And in a way, it's kind of political, and like I said on the King of Rap video, I'm like, I don't talk about politics on this show. You know, you want politics? Go to a political channel or something like that. Although I don't think there's many YouTube channels on here that are political, so I don't know. Most people are in the freaking category where I'm at, where we don't care about politics. But anyway, so yeah, AEW, you gotta start starting it up, and it needs to start tonight. You gotta you gotta be what you were in 2020. You gotta be what you were in 2019, at the end of 2019, into 2020 and 2021. Don't be what you were in 2022, 2023, 2024. Now, 2025, you know, they were kind of up and down year. They were good, bad, I don't know. But, yeah. You got to freaking you got to start, you know, improving your show. And a way to do it is go to the Mall of America. Go to Disney World. Go to freaking other places that TNA or WWE don't go to, because that might help you a little bit. But yeah, well, I think, like I said, well, I just talked about what I talked about. The only good thing with AEW right now is the rightful king is back on top of his throne, and that is the man, MJF, MJF, MJF. The man is back on top of his throne. So that's good. That we get MJF back where he belongs, on the top of the AEW mountain. Yeah. So, alright. Let me get into a few early Comic-Con, maybe WrestleMania weekend predictions for wrestling figures. These are going to be totally different from some of the stuff I said like a couple weeks ago on my show. Has it been a couple weeks ago? No, it was like a week ago. Only been back on YouTube fully a week and a half ago, because I did the King of Rap on the 2nd of January. So, let me predict who I think WWE is going to get under a merchandise licensing deal. Then I'll talk about the AEW figures real fast, and then I'll end the video. But first person I think they're going to get, because if they got Bryan Adams, they got to get Brian Clark. We need Bryan Adams, Brian Clark Chronic figures. We never got the Toy Biz WCW Chronic figures. We haven't had Chronic figures ever. Will frickin' Mattel call them Chronic though? They were called Chronic because of, a certain nickname for a certain substance that people like to, use to calm their nerves. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we got to get Chronic. We got to get a Brian. I want to see a Wrath figure too, man. We need to get a Wrath. We got a Toy Biz Wrath, but we never got freaking Chronic Wrath. But I would like to see a freaking Wrath figure. And like I said, I think they could do the whole, Toy Biz tribute, since they do all the tributes to the old WWE figures. Why not do a tribute to some of the old WCW figures? Like the Toy Biz figures. But yeah, I think we're gonna get Brian Clark signed to a deal. And if Jericho is coming back, we are going to get Jericho on a merchandising deal. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, I think that we will see a lot of Chris Jericho figures, especially if he appears at the Royal. We're going to see a lot of Chris Jericho figures at WrestleMania. They're going to be prototypes and all that crap. Then we're going to see some at Comic-Con. And then we're going to see, a bunch of Jericho figures. Another guy, I don't know if he's still under contract with AEW or not. But if not, and he's not a part of the company anymore, I think they might reach out to try to sign a licensing deal with Jeff Jarrett to give us some Jeff Jarrett figures. I don't know if they will or not, but I think they might do that. But then again, 2 members of the Clique are running WWE, booking right now, so who knows? And I'm sure Jeff Jarrett has not had fun things to say about the Clique, like a lot of other people over the years, so yeah, maybe. Maybe we see Jeff Jarrett figures, maybe not. This is going to be a bold prediction. But since they did the ringside unsanctioned figures last year, I'm going to say we are close to seeing the Legion of Doom, aka the Road Warriors, back in the Mattel WWE line. I think they're going to get a deal. They're going to make the figures. And it's going to be pretty cool to see them. What else? I think they're going to sign more ECW talents. I mean, they got New Jack, they got the Dudley Boys, they got Rob Van Dam. I think we might see them sign deals to have Sabu, Rhino, Tommy Dreamer, Just Not Credible, Who else is a big name in these? Raven. Shane Douglas. I hope we get a Shane Douglas. But I think we're going to see Shane Douglas. We're going to see them sign a lot more ECW talents under a merchandising contract. And if we do get Shane Douglas, we got to get that 1996 ECW World Championship. I do not want to see the frickin' 98 to 2001 belt no more with older ECW guys. Terry Funk did not hold that version of the belt. Sandman did. Rhino did. Tommy Dreamer did for a split second. Just Incredible did. Mike Awesome did. But frickin' Terry Funk did not hold that version of the belt. Give us the version of the belt we want. The 96 belt. I'd also like to see the 92 and 94 belts be made. Not just that. The old ECW tag belts, the old television titles, and all that stuff. I'd like to see that. Also, I think this year we're going to see WWE sign Taka Michinoku to a licensing deal. And he is going to have, for the first time in the Mattel line, the light heavyweight championship. Probably the red version. I think they might sign, Jerry Lawler's son to a merchandise deal too. I mean, Jerry Lawler's still a part of WWE somewhat. So why not give us a merchandise deal with his son where we can get a Brian Christopher figure and a couple other. Maybe we might even get a Dean Malenko signing and he can come with the black version of the light heavyweight belt. Oh, what else? There's a couple other I want to say. Oh yeah. I also want to see I think we'll get Chris Canyon as well. We're going to get Chris Canyon. Not only are we going to get Chris Canyon, we're going to get Mortis. And you know what else? We got to get a deal signed with the man Glacier. Come on now. We got to get a Glacier figure. I don't think there's ever been any Glacier figures made ever in the history of wrestling figures. WCW didn't make any. And I don't think any other company that's made wrestling figures, whether it's an independent company or a big company, I don't think any other company has made a Glacier figure. So we've got to get the Glacier figure, man. Come on now. That way we can have him go up against our freaking McFarlane Sub-Zero. I don't know. Something else I'm gonna say I'd like to see too. But I gotta get my wife's tablet. And yeah, I kind of predicted this that, alright, let's see. How do I go down from this? This freaking tablet's complicated. Oh yeah, push the button. Alright, let me find her Google thing and go on eBay. This is the last thing I'll talk about with WWE. Then I'll get into a few TNA things. And then, I'll end the video. Not TNA, AEW. Companies are the same. Pretty much. Oh shoot. Anyway. Fuck. I don't want this video to go too much longer. I don't want it to be a 50-minute video like the video I did last week with my predictions. Where's our freaking world thing? There's a bunch of apps. And go to this. No. That's not it. What? I don't know. Our tablet's like wonky. Can't find what I'm looking for here. She doesn't have like a globe icon or anything. Translate iTunes Store. You know what? Anyway, screw it. I gotta put that back on charger for her anyway. I think Mattel is going to reveal a newly tooled Big Eagle belt. It's gonna be better than the freaking one they got out currently. And you know, I looked on eBay and I found one made by Forbidden Figurines or Forbidden Figures, whatever. It's $95, but you know what? I think they're gonna make it in the style of that belt because that belt looks like it's a little bit bigger. It don't need to be too much bigger, but it does need to be a little bit bigger than the current one Mattel makes. And it just looks so much more like the actual Attitude Era, like they did with the freaking Winged Eagle last year, and like they did with the Big Gold the year before. Or no, the Winged Eagle this year and the Big Gold last year. But it's gonna look like that Forbidden Figures belt. And it's gonna be, I don't know what's gonna come with it. It might come with a Kurt Angle from 01. It might come with a Stone Cold Steve Austin from 01. All that stuff. I would like to see Stone Cold with like the double knee braces with the freaking red and the white and the freaking gold knee braces like he had in 01. But we'll see what they do. Especially with the the new torso they made for Stone Cold. Which fits him perfectly. That's why I got two of the Ultimate Editions. One's for the promo gear, which you saw yesterday on the figure show. And then the other's for, like, wrestling gear. But anyway. Yeah. AEW figures. I've talked about the Big Eagle. Big Eagle is my favorite belt. I think it's, like, the third most popular belt in wrestling. Outside of the Big Gold and the frickin' Winged Eagle. Then you got the Big Eagle. Then probably after that would be the Smoking Skull belt. But, which I think the Smoking Skull belt, that's fine right now. It's okay. But, you know, we're going to see at Comic-Con. We're going to see the Big Eagle retooled. And it's going to be better than the current one that's out right now. That's what I'm going to say. That's the last thing I'm going to say with WWE Mattel figures. Now let's go over to AEW. And I think by the end of this year, and I should have did this last week in the predictions video, but I talked about so many other things I couldn't even forget. But, you know, I think by the end of this year, AEW will either announce a new deal with Jazzwares, or they're going to have an announcement on a deal with a different company that's going to be making their figures. Because AEW got to stay in the figure game. They also got to get back into the gaming game as well. Because, yeah, their last game came out in 2023. It's been a few years, so maybe we can get a new AEW game. Because if you want to compete with WWE, you can't just compete with them as wrestling shows. You got to compete with them in the toy market. You got to compete with them in the wrestling figure market. Or, I mean, the video game market. You got to compete with them in the freaking merchandise market. So, toy market, game market, and merchandise market is also where AEW needs to compete with WWE. And that's what they need to do. So, they cannot let this deal with Jazzwares end and not have another freaking company making their wrestling figures. Because if not, they're going to end up in TNA territory. But, if they have another company, or if Jazzwares renews the contract with AEW for the figures, and that's fine. Then you get back into the gaming market. Because that's how you're going to compete with WWE. Even WCW back in the day. You know, they had WCW, a few WCW games. They had that one Super Brawl Then they came out with some in the late 90s, which a couple of them were good and a couple of them were bad, but you know what? So AEW is either going to have a new deal with a new company or they're going to have a new deal with the company they've been with toys. They also need to announce a new game, which I don't know. I don't know what would be a good time to announce a new game. Probably the Game Awards. I don't know. If the Game Awards ain't bad like they were this past year. I don't know. But yeah. And I forgot to mention when I did talk about that show, I forgot to mention that they had the Street Fighter cast come out, show off some clips to the movie, which the movie looked terrible. I think Mortal Kombat 2 is going to be the best freaking video game movie this year. I mean, seriously, because, boy, that Street Fighter movie looks terrible. I don't know. We'll see. But, anyway, yeah, AEW is going to have an announcement on their toy deal. And they're going to have an announcement on their game deal this year. So, those are the things I'm predicting for AEW. But, you know, maybe they sign more legends to make figures of them. Especially if they do stick with Jazzwares. But you never know. And if Jeff Jarrett's still under contract, then maybe we'll get a late 99, 2000 Jeff Jarrett. I don't know. But, yeah. That's what yeah. So that's all the wrestling stuff I wanted to talk about. The reason why I did this wrestling video and why it was so long is because, you know, in the King of Rap video, I had to get myself back on track because some dude was talking about wrestling with me, and I got off track with that. Then somebody brought up Donald Trump. I had to talk about that, but then I got back on track with the Rap King stuff, and, you know, so. Anyways, I wanted to get a big wrestling video off and running early in this year. So there's my wrestling video. I'll have some more down the road, especially around WrestleMania time. But anyway, that'll do it. Please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe for more. Follow my Facebook fan page, Mr. 183 Show. Follow my Facebook business page, Trigen Toys. Also check out the video I did yesterday, the wrestling figure build for the Royal Figure Rumble. Had some participants in the Rumble talking. I had Stone Cold Goldberg. And check out my James Bond video I did Monday. It was a pretty good James Bond video that I did. But anyway, that'll do it. Catch you guys later.